Hi, I'm Barry Tefera from Aurora Novus AI Solutions, and today I'm going to be giving a demonstration and a look behind the hood of a web app that performs retrieval augmented generation for law firms that specialize in involuntary commitments. Involuntary commitments, or IVCs, have controversially doubled in North Carolina, leaving law firms that specialize in this field exhausted trying to keep up with the new clientele. The entrepreneur in me recognized this opportunity, and I built a web app that lets users ask questions about North Carolina's IVC policy and get clear answers backed directly by the letter of the law. This web app uses an n8n webhook to route queries to an AI agent that performs retrieval augmented generation so every response is traceable to the actual statute, eliminating the threat of hallucinations polluting your responses. The Supabase vector store that stores the data also re-ranks the vectors from k nearest neighbors algorithms to get top rated chunks, and it uses PostgreSQL to store chat memory. This type of RAG web app could also be built for finance and accounting compliance, training and onboarding new employees, or for medical guidelines and clinical protocols. In its current iteration, with the workflow engineering for RAG and the re ranking involved, plus the prompt engineering for the AI agent, along with the encrypted Supabase backend and the elegant user interface, providing a similar product to another firm would cost roughly 6 grand. Once we incorporate multiple statutes and improve the login and authentication process and provide secure hosting, that value will jump to 20K. Not because there's more AI, but because there are more guardrails ensuring the AI is safe to use. Now that we've reviewed the basics, let's take a look at the actual web app. So this is the interface. This is the home page, the hero section. Now let's give this a shot. What section outlines policy on client rights? Okay, so section 122C51 outlines policy on client rights. What section defines criteria for commitment? One 283D1. And what section discusses liability for corruptly attempting commitment? Okay, so according to section 122C, section 204, lying about someone to get them committed will leave you liable in North Carolina court. Interesting. Okay, now that we've seen how the web app works, let's take a look at what retrieval augmented generation actually is. And for that, I'm going to use some slides courtesy of Grayson Ho, whose YouTube channel, the AI Builders Lab, was a tremendous help in building this web app. So you have your document, and what you do is you upload it to a vector store. That then uses an embedding model to break it up into chunks, and the embedding model then looks at the vectors and tries to rank them based on the similarity they have to the query. Now, one of the main algorithm the embedding model will use is called k nearest neighbors, which is demonstrated here. Just want to get that out of the way. So you can see once the vectors are there, they use the k nearest neighbors algorithm to determine the most appropriate response. The vector that provides the most appropriate response. That vector will then be re-ranked to get the most accurate vector, and then the top rated chunk will go to the AI agent, which will then use it for its output. Now here, this is what it actually looks like. This is where you upload the document. Let's take a look at that. You just upload the document right here. It goes straight to the Supabase vector store. Once it's in the vector store, the embeddings OpenAI model will break it up into chunks and store it appropriately. Now what we do is we use recursive character splitters. The chunk size will be 1,000 pieces of text, and it'll break the document up there after 1,000 text files, or 1,000 moments of text. So then we have overlap to help ensure that you can get a complete look at the whole document. If you want to improve or to have a really, really strong RAG system, you want smaller chunks and you want there to be a lot of overlap. However, that can get costly. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I kept it at a cost-efficient level. However, it's never going to be zero. You always want chunk overlap because you want the algorithm to be able to figure out what the whole document looks like. There needs to be overlap. But after 1,000 sections of text, it gets broken up. Now let's take a look at the earliest iteration of this. Right here. So when I first made this, you can see the submission strategy was constant. However, to make sure that the AI agent was set up properly, I didn't use a webhook. I used a chat message. And when you use the chat message, it keeps things very simple, but you can't make an app out of it. It just stays on the n8n interface. Now, when you go to a webhook, there's all kinds of formatting that's going to have to go into it. And a lot of people get tripped up. You see a lot of YouTube channels that talk about making a web app using n8n and Lovable. But when you actually read through the comments, a lot of people are stuck because they can't get the webhook to connect to the web app. So what I ended up realizing was, in order to properly get the webhook to do its job and compete with the chat message that's native to n8n, you need to match the output. So the output is going to be the session ID, an action, and the chat input. So in the action is going to be taken care of by prompting the AI agent, the user prompt. The chat input will also be pretty easy to take care of because you can just upload the text from the webhook. The session ID is the tricky part. And that's where people get caught up. When I took this issue to the n8n community, I found an individual named John who solved this perfectly. His name is John Boy EGB. He's part of the n8n team. So if you're watching this, thank you very much for your contribution. He ended up giving a text file here, a little bit of string, that will create a session ID. So I took what he did and I used an edit fields node and I created a session ID field. That session ID is absolutely critical. You won't get your Postgres chat memory to work if you don't have a session ID. It's the only thing it needs. It just needs that, and it also needs to connect to the Postgres account and to the Supabase backend. So you need that. Otherwise, it doesn't matter that you have a webhook. It's just not going to be as effective. So a lot of people haven't figured that out yet. I'm happy to contribute to the community and help them figure that out because I've learned a lot from the YouTube channels and the free information that people have given already. Now you can take a look at the AI agent. What I did here was use the message and I plugged it in to the prompt so that it knows exactly what it's responding to. I also made sure that it always calls the document vector store before it uses any other tool. I told it to never answer from memory and to only use results from the vector store. That way, it's consistent, reliable retrieval augmented generation, and it's not going to be the AI agent hallucinating. We want to get rid of hallucinations. We want this to be as reliable and as consistent as possible. So that's everything. Thank you for your time. I hope you learned something. Take care.